Over the past several months, there's been a lot of speculation on forums like Reddit that the new LSAT format's going to have harder logical reasoning. Today, I'm going to break down for you what the rumors are saying, how likely this is, and what you can do to prepare. For those who don't know me, my name is Steve Schwartz. I personally improved my LSAT score from a 152 to a 175, and I've been teaching the LSAT since 2005. A lot of my personal score improvement came from logical reasoning. There's a lot of different question types out there in the logical reasoning section. And personally, I'm not a math-oriented person. And so I did not love hearing the rumors that the LSAT logical reasoning section was going to contain more numbers-based reasoning, more quantitative reasoning, more formal logic, since LSAC is removing the logic game section. So the idea behind this speculation goes that while LSAC is required due to a settlement agreement after a lawsuit, they are required to remove the logic game section, maybe they're going to start testing out similar types of reasoning in the logical reasoning section of the LSAT. The idea being that since the settlement agreement has gone into effect, LSAC is testing out logical reasoning experimental sections containing a higher proportion of quantitative reasoning style questions, more questions involving formal logic, more questions involving numbers versus percentages, absolute versus relative proportions and values. And so this would not be a violation of their settlement agreement. It would be a loophole, if you will. Personally, I can see the reasoning here. I think it's possible. We have seen movement. I have gotten lots of reports from students indicating that this is in fact occurring in these logical reasoning unscored experimental sections in the November LSAT, the February LSAT, and the April LSAT. And of course, possibly that'll occur once again in the June LSAT as well, which would be another data point supporting this trend in what LSAC is doing in the logical reasoning section. Now, to be clear, this would not be some bizarre new question type that you've never seen before. However, it instead might just be a slight increase in the relative proportion of questions we've already seen on the LSAT over the past couple of decades. LSAC has always tested quantitative reasoning in the logical reasoning section of the exam. It hasn't been a lot of questions, maybe one or two per logical reasoning section. And so if they were to double this proportion on logical reasoning, it would be an increase from 1 or 2 per section to 2 to 4 per section. Of course, if you don't like math, if you don't like quantitative reasoning, this would not be good news for you. But that being said, you can still prepare for this just by drilling these types of questions in the logical reasoning sections of the past. Now, there are a handful of them over the years. As I said, a couple per exam means there would be several dozen of them available to you, since there are 94 numbered LSAT prep tests and a handful that are unnumbered if you are using the old numbering system for the June format and prior. Otherwise, of course, you have 58 numbered exams from LSAT 101 up to 158 in the new format. Now, of course, at LSAT Unplugged, we are covering these harder LR questions in our live classes. To help you score 170 plus on your official LSAT, we'll be adding in more logical reasoning classes in the coming weeks. Since LSAC is, of course, removing logic games, we'll be freeing up some time on the calendar to devote additional attention to logical reasoning. If you'd like to find out more, you can click the links below the video to book a call with me and my team. We'd be glad to help you out. Now, logical reasoning is going to be 2/3 of the test starting in August after they remove logic games from the LSAT and replace it with the second scored logical reasoning section. What this means is that you should devote additional attention and time to logical reasoning in your study plan if you're taking the LSAT in August or beyond. It's going to be 2/3 of the test, so any gains you make in your understanding of logical reasoning will be doubled across the two sections. And so you want to make sure that you're devoting plenty of time, not just to these harder numbers-based logical reasoning questions, but all the logical reasoning question types. There are roughly 15 of them, the most common being necessary assumption, inference, and flaw. Now, I know a lot of pre-law students hate math. Not my biggest thing either. I was terrible at math in high school, didn't even take it in college because I was able to avoid it, luckily. And so I would make sure that you not get overly focused on these harder logical reasoning questions, the more quantitative style reasoning, if you have not yet mastered the basics. Build your foundation first, tackle the lowest hanging fruit first, start with the types of questions that appear most often, like necessary assumption, inference, and flaw, before you move on to these harder logical reasoning questions, of which there only might be a couple of them per exam. Of course, don't neglect a reading comprehension either. I know it may seem more familiar than logical reasoning, but of course it's not a walk in the park either. Still plenty to work on there. Anyway, folks, I hope you found this video helpful. In the meantime, I'll wish you all the best and take care.